It's no secret the big hits of Shonen Jump have a whole lot in common. What determines a truly good work, though, is how they stand out from the crowd. Hunter x Hunter, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, My Hero Academia, and so on all have aspects of them that fans feel they've seen nowhere else. For me, I love Hunter x Hunter for its moral ambiguity. How Gon is more often than not one of the weaker characters in any given situation. His potential is astounding and he taps into it at times, but Gon loses when he should. There are arcs that take on massively different styles and tones. The same can be said of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is, well, bizarre. There is no true main character, the story gets incredibly dark and gory, there's a unique 80s style hairband aesthetic despite the fact that it takes place in the early 1900s in some arcs and goes through the 30s and all the way up to more modern day. And those time jumps allow it to take on many different styles, like being a gangster film or a murder mystery. So what does this all have to do with Black Clover? Well, unfortunately, there isn't much that defines the latest Shonen Jump adaptation from the rest. In many ways, Black Clover is the cover band of the magazine, and this can all be sussed out through the very first episode alone. Black Clover's opening scene starts off fairly promising. An enormous demon skull that looks straight out of Doom 2016 looms over a foggy medieval town. Descriptor text pops, a village in the boonies, suggesting some immediate self-awareness of the miserable tone. A young priest lights a fire with his own hand as the catalyst, suggesting this world is one of magic, so much so that even a lowly priest in some boony town can wield it. Then we get the two heroes, Asta and Yuno in baby form, suggesting that this miserable world or town will be saved by these abandoned infants. A classic hero's journey setup. This is all smartly bolstered by the 15 years later transition, as we truly now understand that magic is so prevalent that it's a part of everyday lives of even the simplest people such as farmers. Swiftly, this is all ruined by the shouting of Asta. I know that even at this point of only 8 episodes aired, slamming Black Clover for how annoying Asta is feels like jumping on a bandwagon. But maybe we should think there's something to it if so many viewers so rapidly hate a character within such a short span of time. It's not just that he yells. Plenty of shonen protagonists do the same. It's his voice. Asta sounds like a pubescent Waluigi. His grating and nasally screeches don't deliver the endearing wahs or I'm number one in a cartoonish fashion that makes Waluigi so lovable. Asta is the Ted Mosby of anime, where everyone around him, even Bandcamp Girl, is more compelling. Of course, his opening dialogue is screaming about how he'll become Wizard King. There's no building to this goal through relatable or sympathetic motivation. He's just out of the gate shouting, I'm a bog-standard shonen protagonist in a voice that makes Ben Stein rambling about Russian ties to the Democratic Party sound like a Frank Sinatra hit. This then leads into the reintroduction of Yuno, a moody black-haired rival of the spiky-haired protagonist with lofty goals. He has a dark blue top, is hailed as a prodigy, and stop me when you start thinking Naruto and Sasuke here. Oh, you got that a few lines ago? Okay. In fairness, by the end of the episode, we are led to believe there is more to the duo's relationship. But merely not copying Naruto or other shonen 100% of the time isn't an achievement worth praising. And I suppose now is a good time as any to criticize the art. The characters are flat. The angles of their faces are weirdly sharp. The detailed shadowing under their chins never shifts with a light source and looks like a poorly drawn neckbeard. This then leads to Asta attempting to use magic, and shockingly, he possesses no power. A bit like Deku of the new hit My Hero Academia, right? Both are powerless in a world filled with powers. So what's the difference? Deku's persistent note-taking, his comedic idolization of All Might. And you know, My Hero Academia overall has a great aesthetic and fantastic character designs. It's not just some generic fantasy world that you can find in a million other anime, or just in any medium. Quickly, it's obvious that My Hero Acca takes more from Western superhero comics to inspire its setting. It creates this nice dichotomy between the two mediums. So why do these generic posh assholes have the same shadowing under their chins in a dark and dingy wizard tower that people do outside on a sunny day? Oh hey, it's Gandalf. Speaking of which, why don't I talk about the ways this world is nothing more than boilerplate fantasy? Starting with the first significant magic user we meet. Someone who looks like a Halloween costume you buy at the last moment for 15 bucks. Tolkien got away with Gandalf's design because he was writing Lord of the Rings back in the early 50s. What's your excuse, Black Clover? At no point other than the previously mentioned enormous demon skull does this world stand out. Just continuous standard fantasy locales with characters whose lack of emotional depth comes through in their designs. I mean, of course this boring ass Gandalf ripoff lives in a bog standard wizard tower filled with bookshelves. And that medieval starting town I mentioned earlier that almost seemed like it was gonna have some personality to it, nah, it's really just medieval Europe down to its priests, despite this world not really explaining religion and its relationship to magic at any point. The episode ends with a villain encounter, a reject from the Magic Knights who restrains the prodigy Yuno and his newfound spectacular four-leaf clover grimoire just for Asta to save the day. As all seems lost and the villain reinforces Asta's lack of power, a hidden strength awakens with the arrival of Asta's demonic grimoire. Yeah, Asta isn't exactly without skill. Shocking. He actually has some crazy power he may not fully be able to control that will always trigger when his or the lives of those he cares about are on the line. Subsequently, he'll then kick the ass of the villain in question. Which is another annoying little thing about this episode, it ends on a cliffhanger like we don't know what's going to happen. I know I don't like to get into the second episodes on these videos, but the result of this is the first 5 minutes of episode 2 are recap of the battle that we know is going to end with Asta winning. And then, yeah, he eventually wins, and then we finally start getting to something more interesting in theory, but it's really not all that interesting. It's a fucking boring-ass flashback that drags on for far too long. But I digress. Let's get back to this episode 1 business. You've probably guessed by now that I have dropped Black Clover. I did get 7 episodes in, but solely as an attempt to ward off those of you who would say you only gave a shonen show an episode. Gosh, you're dumb. I know what I like, and it isn't Black Clover. Right away, I can tell there is something to Hunter x Hunter, JoJo's My Hero Academia, and Naruto. Black Clover is really a testament to why you don't always need to do the 3-episode test. Sometimes you just know if something isn't for you. But being the foolish critic that I am, again, I tried to dive into more of the manga to see, okay, I really don't think there's going to be anything here, but for the few people that say, oh, you dropped it after episode 7, come on, it didn't even get to the first good arc. So I read the manga up to the end of the first good arc, aka the dungeon exploration arc. And all that did was just cement everything that I've said so far. Black Clover is an imitator, not an innovator in any way. Frankly, I don't think My Hero Academia is as mind-blowingly good as everyone else. I enjoy it. I think it captures the core soul of shonen and does a few twists here and there, and then has a really strong aesthetic. But Black Clover doesn't do any of that for me. As always, like, subscribe, all that nonsense. It is very much appreciated. And if you can, please donate to my Patreon. That's by far the best way to ensure that these videos keep on coming.